Hi, and welcome to New God Sunday School. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics, and Fantastic Four Grand Design. So today we're looking at Forever People #1, another piece of Jack Kirby's New Gods Fourth World puzzle. Like New Gods #1, there's a lot of interesting typography on this cover. Kirby's here, letting you know. They belong to sunrise. They're here in midday to stop the dark spread of night. So sunrise is, the realm of the gods, the realm of New Genesis, and midday would be the earth. It's like this middle world where everything goes down, where the forces of good and the forces of evil face off. Night would be apocalypse and Darkseid. Also a big bonus guest star, Superman. And unlike the Superman inside the book, it looks like it's a Kirby-drawn Superman with Coletta inks. It doesn't. If there was any redrawing or retouching by DC's production department, I don't really see it. Wait, this is my only chance to find my own kind. You must tell me how to reach Supertown. And then Big Bear says to him, "Try the boom tube if you dare." Beautiful dreamer. She's sort of the princess that they have to rescue in this issue. I feel a very strong tremor in the force reading this. I feel a very strong Star Wars vibe. You got this, they're sort of, flying in their little, spacecraft, this like super motorcycle. You got Mark Moonrider, which sounds a lot like Luke Skywalker. You have a sort of space cowboy, space jockey. You have Big Bear, this kind of big furry guy, this, get this walking carpet out of my way, kind of like a Chewbacca. Viking with his mother box, this little, beeping, blooping computer that he talks to. And they all kind of argue about, do you have the right coordinates? You could materialize us in a wall or something, the sort of banter that they have when they're flying around in the Millennium Falcon. They have to rescue a princess from a bad guy called Darkseid, who wears a helmet and a cape. Darkseid in this issue wears a cape, looks very Darth Vader-ish. Each one of these series, New Gods, Forever People, and Mr. Miracle, they all sort of shine a different light on this overarching story Kirby's trying to tell. We're seeing that larger story through these different lenses. I mean, Kirby's work is complicated. It's many things at the same time, and a big part of the Forever People is sort of his commentary on the young people of the day, on the hippies. He's kind of like the Superman figure. Okay, there's all these young kids who kind of just showed up on the scene on their motorcycles, making a lot of noise, wearing a lot of weird clothes, speaking what sounds like a totally different language. Talking about having all this jargon, all these terms that he just don't make any sense to him, and he's kind of confused, feels a little bit out of his depth. He also, part of him would like to be a part of this, and he wants to be part of this thing, but very, very definitely feeling a generation gap. But this possibility that maybe maybe he belongs with these kids. Maybe these are more his kin than the people he's been living with all these years on Earth. Because he always felt like a little bit of an outsider and a little bit of a weirdo. As a if there's an autobiographical element to this, sort of Kirby, it's like, okay, I draw these superhero comic books. Essentially, kid stuff. And I'm super into it. I really like what I'm doing. And, and I'm very respected by this sort of younger generation. But I also, and I'm kind of looked at strangely by the people of my own generation. I'm not quite sure where I belong. So maybe I belong with these kids. Maybe I belong with, Marv Wolfman and Mark Evanier. Let's get on with the story. Jack Kirby also would, have the TV on while he worked, and he's a sci-fi buff, and what TV show would he be watching? I mean, he's a sci-fi buff. He has the choice between Lost in Space or Star Trek. I feel like maybe some nights he watched Lost in Space and got some ideas, but I think more often than not he was watching Star Trek. So, Star Trek had an episode about a planet where there's this flying city where these sort of godlike characters live, and, easily translates into like New Gods, New Genesis. And then there's also the famous space hippies. episode of Star Trek. So, just like how, Jack Kirby kind of, heard about Planet of the Apes, he insists that when he created Kamandi, he had never seen the Planet of the Apes, but, was sort of just aware of it as this sort of, pop culture thing, maybe saw some pictures of it in magazines and got the general gist, from commercials or whatnot, and then created something that transcended the source material in Kamandi, Last Boy on Earth. Same thing here. The space hippie episode of Star Trek is not the worst episode of Star Trek, but it's among the worst. It took that and ran with it and created something profound and lasting with the Forever People. It just feels like you're in a new world. It feels like, Alice in Wonderland through the looking glass, that you've been sort of ushered into this new world. This opening narration for this sequence, it reads like poetry, but I'm thinking, Kirby's doing something about the young generation, the young people of his time, the generation that his children were part of. And I can't help but think that he's maybe writing a, sort of like a folk song, writing like a sort of Bob Dylan ballad. So if you'll indulge me, rather than read this, I'm going to sing it and maybe get a sense of what Kirby was going for. Listen to the night. You may hear sounds heard by few men. Watch for the light. You'll see it if you're sharp, and then hold your ears. It must be coming through. From there to here, on a trip with an infinite view. What is it? Who's in it? Well, they're both new to this age. Stand back for the answers. They're on the next page. Accompanying that is this soaring electric guitar of the boom tube sound. Scream! You can almost picture like a Jimi Hendrix guitar. And then you get this nice buildup, and then this double page splash, the Forever People in search of a dream. Now, unfortunately, the song and the poetry and the rhyming doesn't continue here. They're from a place that men have sought but never found. We've seen their like before in different ages, in different guise, but never like this, yet always like this, when man's civilization faces destruction. Raboom! Edited, drawn, and written by Jack Kirby, our man in the boom tube. Inked by Vince Coletta. The inking is a little underwhelming, and Coletta skimps on the details in the sort of backgrounds and things, and these first three panels that are all atmosphere. I feel like we might be missing out on something there. And here, too, I feel like Kirby probably didn't do as minimalist a double-page splash. That just doesn't seem like him. I feel like there's probably some more cool stuff going on around the edges. I'm not sure who does the lettering. I think it might be John Costanza. But when Mike Royer comes on the scene, he does the lettering, and it's transcendent. And the John Costanza stuff is serviceable. It's not great. And we got a little Superman here. Not a Kirby Superman. I do wonder if Jack Kirby drew a Superman there, or if he did not show him. So now here we are. Man, this is like, it's like the Dukes of Hazzard or something. They're kind of this extended 3-page long vehicle jump, and they have this like crazy super motorcycle, almost like a motorcycle train. We're through the boom tube. We're here. Yeehaw! I wonder if Seraphin, with his whole like sort of cowboy look. I mean, it's like, Jack Kirby saw, Easy Rider, or maybe like Planet of the Apes. He didn't see it. He just heard about it. And it's like, okay, it's motorcycles. It's there's a guy called Captain America. He must have heard about that. And then, there's sort of this like cowboy guy, this kind of Dennis Hopper character. Seraphin's kind of like that. But Seraphin also kind of seems like, the lay version of Bob Dylan, like that lay across my big brass bed. The Nashville skyline, Bob Dylan. But anyway, this is Kirby riffing on the young people, and I love it. I love it compared to, Kirby riffing on the young people actually in the 60s, where it's like, oh, these Beatles, look at that horrible hair. Where here he's kind of in a different headspace, and he's kind of had a little bit more time to think about this new generation, and seems to be meeting them on their own terms, and with more nuance, and the love kind of shows through. Also, some awkwardness. He is from a different generation, and that's kind of part of the fun too. So, some of the jargon that he introduces and some of the real jargon that he gets wrong. You have a lot of this banter. Big Bear got you here, Viking. Remember that. You giant-sized granite brain. You didn't plot our course with the mother box. We may have emerged at the wrong spot. True. A car coming up fast. Eyes front, you hairy dingaling. We're going to collide. Cool it. I know what buttons to push. Good Lord, that thing popped out of nowhere. It's too late to cut away. We're going to hit. Emergency phase out initiated. Get ready to fade, friends. At the moment of collision, the super cycle works like a charm. Our atoms have been reshifted so we can pass through the car like ghosts. Man, the super cycle. What if Superman had a super cycle? That's the thing. They didn't let Jack Kirby go hog wild on Superman. They gave him just like a little access to little tiny bits of Superman, and then they redrew it as often as they could and cut the legs out from under him on it. But man, if they had let Kirby go hog wild with Superman. So this kind of starts out like a lot of Jack Kirby's sci-fi stories, some of the old monster stories that he did at Marvel, where it's like some flying saucer. Imagine this as just sort of like a 1970 version of a flying saucer, or 1971. It's these two teenagers maybe going to, make out point or whatever in their car, see an alien land or see a space monster show up. And yeah, they're going off the road. And then the Forever People, Viking with his mother box draws the car back, and they're safe and sound. And they start to tell them about their mission on Earth. Viking describes Mother Box to them, and Mother Box is pinging away, telling her story, apologizing for what just happened, and then Mark Moonrider, not Luke Skywalker, says, I am Mark Moonrider. What Viking means is that Mother Box is like a computer. Now he's trying to sort of talk down to these Earth people and explain it to them in terms they might understand, and also not blow their cover, but Viking is having none of it. Wrong. Mother Box lives. She talks to us, protects us. We shall need her when the time comes to rescue beautiful dreamer. And then I like the reaction. Is that right? How about that? They're just kind of terrified of this alien encounter they just had, and Viking's kind of giving him too much information. He's like, yeah, that's wonderful. Okay. Let me get the fuck out of here. Here's the team. They're explaining their mission. Seraphin, he's a lover, not a fighter. He gives the young lady some nice flowers that he picked. Big Bear says, young Seraphin is doing his big hero bit. Here, miss, I trust these will help. Seraphin turns on with fantasies. He's a sensitive. We'll need him if we ever hope to contact beautiful dreamer. And so this guy, snaps a couple pictures of the team. Go ahead, but make it fast. Our mission here is urgent. Why don't you just smile? And that kind of leads us to the next plot point. So there's a light over at the other edge, and they tell this couple, Bobby, groovy. If it's as weird as you characters, I've got a scoop for a good friend. Jimmy Olsen will eat this up, Bobby. The Forever People tell those kids that that glow is the boom tube that they just came through, and it's still there. And if you're fast, you might have just enough time to snap a photo before it fades out. It's going to disappear before you get there, but only the worthy can go through the boom tube. It's something you have to be ready for. And so Seraphin starts to have an attack of some sort where he just kind of freezes because his mind has made contact with beautiful dreamer. He's a sensitive, she's a sensitive. And now we have these Intergang guys. Intergang is sort of this, mafia group that Darkseid has allied himself, and they're kind of like super mobsters armed with, Darkseid sci-fi weaponry, Sigma blasters and whatnot. He sort of finances and equips these guys to do his work on Earth, and they're talking to him on the little video phone, their little iPhone, and he tells them to hold off, don't shoot them, follow them. I've got bigger plans for them. Now we get to the Superman segment. Now, I really like the way Jack writes Superman. This is just a really great sequence, and I know Kirby had he had many more plans for Superman, and Carmine kind of brought him in to revamp Superman and try to retool Superman for the 70s, and he made a lot of suggestions which did end up being used, but I think both Carmine and Jack wanted a bigger role for Jack. It's just the office politics of DC at the time. The various books were kind of divided up into fiefdoms, and it became, they didn't like outsiders. Some of them liked Jack, some of them didn't like Jack, but they liked people to sort of stay out of their fiefdom. So kind of like the Superman office kind of bristled at a lot of Kirby stuff, and you can see that most of the panels featuring Superman or Clark Kent or Jimmy Olsen, those characters have been redrawn, by somebody else. Sometimes it's just the faces, sometimes it's the face and the body. It's very jarring and sort of takes away from the enjoyment of the comic. Because I'm reading a Jack Kirby comic with Superman in it. I want to see Jack Kirby's take on Superman, and you don't really get that until much later in Kirby's tenure at DC. But other events are stirring. In his small office at the Daily Planet, Clark Kent finishes an interview with a famous sports figure. "Thanks for dropping in, Rocky. This will make a great human interest feature." "Glad to help, Kent. The boys at the sports desk rate you as an okay guy." "Say, that's quite a grip you've got. Ever been in the ring?" No, I just eat the right morning cereals." "Rocky, one question before you leave. Why are you unhappy?" "Caught that in your notes, did you?" "But you're the champ. The public loves and respects you." "That's just what's bugging me. What have I done that Superman couldn't do better? He can put down an army of title holders. With Superman in the picture, the fight game is a farce. If only I could meet him on his own terms." "Yes, I see your viewpoint, Rocky." "No charge, Kent, but keep it off the record. It might hurt the gate receipts." "Sure, champ." Poor Rocky. Poor Superman. Reading this sequence, it makes me think how, when they were doing the Superman movies in the 70s with Christopher Reeve, how great it would be if they had a little crossover appearance with Rocky, with Sylvester Stallone from the Rocky movies, and just kind of redo this sequence, but with that Rocky, playing the Rocky here. Clark Kent's talking about himself, talking about Superman. "Despite his powers, he is a minority of one in a teeming world of billions, a stranger in a strange land. What does Superman mean to you down there?" Now, see, this to me is an interesting take on Superman, and not one that was done prior to this. Do they secretly resent him, fear him, hate him? For the first time in many years, I feel that I'm alone. Alone. And again, I'm thinking, this might also be Jack Kirby thinking man, how do I fit in? I hang out with other people my age, and they give me weird looks when I tell them what I do for a living. And then I show up at a comic convention or something, the early comic conventions, and people call me a genius and whatnot. Maybe that's where I belong. Jimmy Olsen bursts in, and he's got photos from his buddy Bobby from earlier in the story, and he just like the Forever People said, if you get there quickly enough, you might be able to snap a photo of the boom tube just as it's fading, and that's exactly what they did. And Superman, with his supervision, can zoom in on a micro dot on this photo, and he sees in incredible detail that no pair of eyes on Earth could see other than his. He sees distant Supertown, this city of super beings, people just like him. Isn't that a gas? That's how the super kids said they got here, through that tube. A city. Supertown exists. Jimmy, now give me the entire story, step by step from the beginning. So Superman is imagining this is Superman's work because it's Superman's dream. The only way to find Supertown is to find those kids. So he sort of found a city, a place with other people like him in a place where maybe he'll be happy there. Maybe that's where he belongs. Maybe there he won't be so much of an outsider as a sort of resented and like a resented presence. This is not a Kirby Superman. This is not a Kirby Superman. This is a fully redrawn Superman, and he sucks. It's a fucking shitty, sucky piece of shit drawing of Superman. And why can't I see the Kirby Superman? That would have been an awesome pose with some blocky knees and stuff. Him flying through the air like that, it would have had, like a weightless quality and a momentum and a power. And here he looks leaden. He doesn't look like someone capable of flight. It's shit, and I hate it. And it wouldn't be so bad if we could find a photo of the pencils or an original, where maybe you could peel off this figure and see the Kirby figure underneath. But as of yet, no such thing has surfaced. And so until that day, which may never come, I'm going to be kind of sore about this, as was Kirby. It was a huge bummer for him. So, but anyway, all that aside, it's a rollicking story. Every bit leads to the next bit, and I can't wait to see what happens next. It's great. It's one of my favorite comics. It's not even one of the best issues of the Forever People, but it's one of the best comics ever made. That just all this New God stuff, the Forever People, Mr. Miracle. It's gold, except for the few issues that are not gold towards the end. But we'll get to those. And so we see more of this Intergang group flying in their helicopter and trailing Superman, and they're talking to Darkseid again. Now, in the previous drawing of Darkseid that we saw, he was not quite inked the right way. He was kind of inked as though his face were flesh. Where this one, I think, Coletta's starting to understand what Kirby's kind of indicating with his line work, that this guy's got kind of more of like a cut stone face. He's not flesh. And one of the guys says, "There's more to Darkseid than that. He makes me believe that Dracula is alive and well in Transylvania." And I feel like with Darkseid, Kirby has created like a new kind of universal monster, like a new kind of that sort of combines elements of Dracula and the Mummy and Frankenstein, but creating something completely new. I'm a huge fan of Jack Kirby's creation of Darkseid. He created an icon. And that is not easy to do. Now, on this page, because there's sort of faraway shots and stuff, I think a few of these are actually like the Kirby drawn and Coletta inked ones. Now, again, 100 times better than the fixes that The Office did. But I like the way that cape's segmented. Superman really does look like $1,000,000. A watered down Kirby Superman will kick any other Superman's ass. And so he shows up, he finds those kids, he meets them. Intergang guys start blasting them with radion bolts. Now, that's like another thing that I love what Kirby did. Kirby is able to create, characters and devices and things that are incredibly, that just ooze power and incredibly seem like they could be a real threat for Superman. Something that, I didn't see anybody doing prior to this. And that don't require kryptonite, that there are things that Darkseid and the New Gods are equals and perhaps even betters to Superman and can create things that could kill him. So Superman all of a sudden, for the first time, has a sense of jeopardy, a sense of danger that isn't linked to that one thing, kryptonite. So, what a cool sequence. He takes this tree or impales this helicopter with it. The guys all jump out and parachute. And he talks to the Supertown guys, and he kind of bumbles into the situation. They kind of have things under control, and he kind of shows up, with good intentions, but is kind of in over his head, which is an interesting place for Superman to be. But again, I think it works for the character. It kind of gives the character a new momentum and also, works as autobiography. Superman's X-ray vision, he finds like a valve under there. It is triggered by their approach, and there's all this, poison gas. He makes a tornado to suck it all up. Pretty great. Again, I really love the way Kirby does Superman. He had a huge respect and love for the character. He was a fan of Superman. a reader and fan of Superman, and talked about the influence Superman had on him. And the man, if things had gone differently and he did 100 issues of Superman for DC, one can only wonder. We get the introduction of the Gravigards, which I like a lot. Again, they seem threatening enough and that they can be a match and something dangerous for Superman. And I like, Kirby's sort of, super sci-fi stuff with them. We transmit heavy gravity waves from heavy mass galaxies. We can hold any super being. It's true, there is incredible crushing weight being channeled into my body. So, this guy's like choking out Superman. Again, I'd love to see the Kirby face. Those look like those are the Kirby hands, but the face looks like it was redrawn. Love to see the agony on the Kirby face. I'm such a fan of this comic, and I have such a desire to see what the real Kirby drawn Superman would look like that I redrew this page once, and I used all my Kirby magic, all my Kirby copying skills to try and figure out what the Kirby version might have looked like, and it was a fun exercise, and I like the results I got from it. And my plan was to redraw the whole issue one page at a time, just as like a fun side project, and then if I finished the issue, present it to DC and say, hey, DC, would you like to publish this? Never got beyond one page. Maybe I might have started another page, but this is the one I completed. And these Gravigards are tough. They got Superman on the ropes. There's a bunch of them. So the Forever People do their Power Rangers thing. They throw Mother Box in the air. They all put their hands on Mother Box, say their magic words Teru, and they all combine Voltron style, like the Megazord. They combine into Infinity Man. I have heard. I am here. I am the Infinity Man. Infinity Man, pretty cool invention. He where did he come from? Where all of natural law shifts and bends and changes. Where the answer to gravity is anti-gravity and simply done. I like this idea that he's this like other being that kind of, at the same time, is like a fusion of all of the Forever People, but also is like, this being that's like summoned from some other universe where the laws of nature are completely different, and he can sort of, bend and warp the laws of nature in our universe to his will. Really like this character. He shows up in a few issues, and then Darkseid banishes him, and then is not seen again until the final issue. And he is missed. I like him a lot. He's this sort of man of mystery. And again, ever since I was a kid, I always I thought I knew all the superheroes. And then when a new one would come my way, a superhero I never heard of, I'd be intrigued. And especially if they were so, interestingly designed and mysterious and cool as Infinity Man. He definitely captured my imagination. Never have I seen such resistance. This one knows no defeat. So Superman's putting up a good fight, but it's tough. This guy's got the advantage. Your rules don't apply to me, evil one. And bam, he punches him through a bunch of trees. Pretty awesome. What rules do you operate from, mister? Where are the boys? They are safe for the present, like all things now living with the great peril. This great peril couldn't be named Darkseid, could it? Holocaust and death is what he serves. That is why he abducted the girl. She is one of the few whose mind can fathom the anti-life equation, the ultimate weapon. Release her, Darkseid. I know you can hear me. You are never far from your traps. Release the girl. Her mind will resist enslavement by your machines. And check it out. Darkseid, wearing his cape, his pants, with the stripe down the side. Man, I wonder where George Lucas got the idea for Darth Vader and the dark side of the Force. But man, he looks like $1 million. He abandons this look. Now, I am curious, what order he drew these things. All of the Jack Kirby comics that he edited at DC have an X number, X dash, and then a number. Every editor at DC had their own letter assigned to them. Usually the first letter of the person's last name. Now, K was already taken. There was somebody at the DC office whose whose last name started with K, and so he had the letter K. So Kirby got X, which is pretty fucking badass and fits him, creator of the X-Men and the X-Pit and the X-Element, and pretty fucking awesome. And so this one has the lowest X number. This is Forever People number 1 is X100. I think New Gods number 1 is X107. So this was turned into DC before New Gods, before any of the other comics. But I don't, and it was published before New Gods. I don't know if Jack intended this as the first issue. It feels like New Gods number 1 is the one you're supposed to read first. But like I said, you could really read any of these first, and they all bring something to the table. Just there's something about the beginning with an epilogue and ending with a prologue that makes New Gods feel like the first one. I suspect that Jack drew Forever People number 1 before any of the Jimmy Olsens that he did, because the Jimmy Olsen issues came out before any of this stuff. But I get the feeling he drew this first and turned it into DC, and they kind of sat on it for a while as they were figuring out how to launch his new books. And then he drew, the first of his issues of Jimmy Olsen and things, and then it rolled like that. I mean, I could be wrong, and there are some things about his first Jimmy Olsen issue that feel like maybe he did it before this, that he was still fleshing things out. It's hard to tell, because in all of these first issues, he's finding his feet. He's got a huge, massive story he wants to tell, but there's also elements that he's figuring out on the page. And so, it's an interesting question to ponder. Like the way they describe Supertown makes me wonder if, Kirby hadn't quite yet figured out, the planet New Genesis, and that it's a floating city, that maybe, okay, Supertown was sort of the broad stroke, that there's this city, on the other side of the boom tube that's futuristic. And then when he did New Gods number 1, he fleshes it out and is like, okay, it's a planet, the city is floating. In Forever People, they sort of consistently refer to it as Supertown, and in New Gods, they refer to it as New Genesis, but Kirby's like figuring out his nomenclature as he goes. But also it works, as the characters. That the Forever People are part of a younger generation and have come up with their own names for things. So while the official name is New Genesis, they call it Supertown because they're young and they're fun and they're playing around, and they come up with word games, and that's sort of a fun name for it. And of course, Superman feels like he belongs in Supertown, so calling it Supertown in the Superman issue where Superman feels like it might be his new home.
Don't shout. I am here. You are right. The girl's mind is unique. It will not interpret the equation. All of my attempts at force have failed.
If you've harmed her, you shall pay, Darkseid.
Nonsense. I have no further need for her. There she rises.
So we got Darth Vader, and then here's the captive princess, beautiful dreamer, Princess Leia.
I release her to your custody. There are others who can solve the equation. One of them shall yield to me.
So, this anti-life equation, we hear about it in various issues. This thing that Darkseid's looking for, and he says here that
when the secret is mine, I shall test it here. Snuff out all life on Earth with a word.
So, it sounds like the equation is this thing that once you figure it out, you just sort of say the magic word, and all life on Earth ends. And we learn more about it in various issues, particularly in the Forever People. The Forever People, what kind of makes it great, I mean, I love the cast of the Forever People and the Infinity Man in and of themselves, but the added bonus is that Darkseid is a co-star of Forever People in a way that he is not in New Gods or Mr. Miracle. You get a lot of Darkseid in the Forever People, so this character gets really fleshed out there. This very interesting character that Kirby's created gets a lot of screen time, which is why some people think of Forever People as sort of the weak link of Kirby's Fourth World, but to me it's every bit as vital as the other two. Beautiful Dreamer's there. Darkseid disappears. He's gone. And maybe that's his superpower, or maybe he used some device to get out. But The platform that she's on is strapped with radion bombs ready to go off. The only way to get out is with super speed. Superman grabs Infinity Man, grabs Beautiful Dreamer, and boom, is out of there at light speed, outracing the explosion. Infinity Man, with the word Teru, turns back into his constituent elements of the Forever People. Beautiful Dreamer is safe thanks to you. They rescued the princess from Darkseid. They flew through hyperspace to another planet, rescued Beautiful Dreamer from Darkseid, and Beautiful Dreamer is safe thanks to you. What can we do to show you our gratitude? Ask anything. That's easy, but why do you want to go there now? Darkseid is here. He must be stopped. I need to know more. I've got to see Supertown. So Superman, he's got there's duty, and then there's his own personal journey that he's on. He's been drafted into this war, but he's not so sure he wants to fight it because there's things he wants to figure out about his own life. I tell you, the action is here, and you and all of Earth are involved. If there is danger, I'll be back. Now, will you do as I ask? But if Darkseid conquers, there will be nothing, not even Supertown. So I like how the stakes are set up. It's not just that, like, hey, if Darkseid wins, Earth's destroyed. If Darkseid wins, the entire universe shuts down. New Genesis shuts down. Everything shuts down. The entire, like, all of existence becomes subjugated to Darkseid. He wants to go, Big Bear, and that's all it takes, a deep desire and the boom tube. Listen, it's coming through now. Yes, I hear something. It's here, friend, and you've earned the trip. But I hope you can live with your conscience later. Don't, Big Bear. Don't spoil his dream now that it is a reality. I see it. Superman's having this vision, this religious experience. He's, getting in touch with the transcendent. Let's go. We'll carry on without him. It will be a hard fight. Darkseid and his evil minions will be everywhere, but we'll do our job. Superman does not hear the youngsters depart. He can only see the wonder before him. The boom tube is fantastic, but it's real, all right. It's a dimensional bridge, and I'm crossing it right now. I mean, Jack Kirby, he creates gods among gods. He creates this story that's just filled with awe and wonder and interactions with the cosmic that humble even the great Superman. I mean, but deep within, Superman feels the sting of apprehension. Does the answer really lie ahead of me? Darkseid and his hidden terrors, the anti-life equation, the danger to mankind. Am I going the wrong way? Is Earth the battleground for some strange super war? It could be as real as the boom tube, and I may be deserting mankind when it needs me most. I can't go on. I can't. There is a loud thunderclap, and Superman finds himself back on Earth. And as the boom tube fades, Superman catches a glimpse of distant, gleaming towers. Then, like a dream, they too fade and are gone. It was the wrong time to go. Perhaps someday I'll try again, but the time is not now, not yet. Holy shit. I mean, like, we get this, hero's journey. They don't make them like this anymore, folks. There aren't. I wish I could say there were 100 comics like this, but there just aren't. This is something very special, and the series only gets better from here. In the next issue, the mystery surrounding the Forever People begins to unfold in Super War. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics and Fantastic Four Grand Design, and thank you for joining me for New Gods Sunday School.